Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and we have a few things to talk about, but most notably, that boy Adam Peters said, nah, man, go ahead and get that weak stuff up out of here, man. The Washington Commanders stopped the Jets from potentially taking Washington Commanders' next offensive coordinator after Kingsbury eventually leaves. We're going to break down who that is, everything that's going on there. Also, some people are spreading rumors around that maybe Marcus Mariota will go over there to the Raiders to join Chip Kelly. We have so many things to talk about. I have a lot of random updates NFL-wise for y'all as well. I feel like I'm just going to throw that towards the end of the video. And the trivia question for February 3rd is, what two-time Pro Bowl fullback from Detroit, Mercy, wore uniform number 44 for Washington from 1938 to 1944? See, that's what I'm talking about. That's a trivia question. I'm going to give y'all the answer to that at the end of the video, man. But before we dive into everything, make sure you still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, and still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Now, I was doing 2-3 videos a day until the weekend was super busy for me. I was barely at home. It was chaotic. Either way, though, I'm about to get back on track, so be on the lookout. I'm doing the video right now. It's like 12:48 a.m. right now. I'm behind, but I'm gonna get there. So stay tuned. I'm about to get back to 2-3 videos a day, so make sure you always constantly pulling up to the channel, because more than likely by the time you pull back up, there's another video there. And without further ado, let's go dive into this video, man, right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. Alright, so first of all, I do want to let y'all know that y'all survived the first Sunday without Jayden Daniels in a long time. I know it feels a little weird. Maybe some of y'all didn't notice, but just to let you know, this is the first Sunday we haven't seen Jayden Daniels play football in a very, very long time. Can't wait. It's not going to happen again for a long time as well, but hey, man, this is the first of many. Get used to it. I mean, he skipped the Pro Bowl and everything. At the very least, we could have seen him one more week if he would have went to the Pro Bowl. But and even though, like, as a rookie, I would have liked to have seen him out there mixing and mingling, especially like free agency wise, going ahead and getting some of that tampering going, you know what I'm saying? Some of that low-key tampering that isn't necessarily monitored, you know, just little side conversations like, hey, man, you might want to pull up, you know what I'm saying? We got the cap space type of stuff. That would have been cool if you could have did that. But at the same time, I love the fact that he took that loss to heart that bad. You know that hurt him, because that was the first time we've heard him cuss, I believe, all season. And his very first word from his press conference after that loss, like his exit interview, was literally the S word. Like it was like, S word sucks. Like that, like we've never seen him step out of bounds like that when it comes to talking to the media, man. I mean, I was going closer to like an Anthony Edwards or LaMelo Ball interview. You could tell his eyes were watering, like he was sick to his stomach. And he basically was like, man, I'm not about to go to the Pro Bowl with these other losers, these other people that are not playing in the Super Bowl. I feel that, man. I love his mentality every way, from start to finish. His mentality that he's had, it's amazing. So I rock with it. It sucks that we didn't get another Sunday of Jayden Daniels before we go on this long break of Sundays without Jayden Daniels, but it's cool with me. Now let's move on to the actual video topic that we're here for. That boy Adam Peters, RIP Mutombo, man, swatting it out of the air, man. Shouts out to our general manager Adam Peters and these guys, because they know what they're doing. They're doing this deliberately. This was not by accident. This was not like we flipped a coin to see whether we wanted to do this or not. This was very deliberate, very strategic. Well, apparently the Washington Commanders blocked the Jets' request to interview assistant quarterbacks coach David Blau for their quarterback coach position per Tom Pelissero. It looks like David Blau will be staying in Washington for at least this 2025 regular season, 2026 postseason. At the very least, hopefully he'll stay longer, but I doubt it. We'll see. If beyond that point, you're gonna have to promote him to something, maybe even offensive coordinator. We'll get there later on. But this all started because the Jets it looks like they're moving on to hire Charles London as their quarterback's coach as a result of what happened with us blocking David Blau. Maybe David Blau was their first choice. We blocked it. They were like, all right, we'll take Charles London. And he is a 50 years old. You know, he held the same title last year with Seattle. He's another veteran assistant for Aaron Glenn's staff. I feel like he is putting together a pretty good staff. But again, Tom Pelissero tweeted what I just read to you, and then also tweeted, in related news, The Commanders blocked assistant quarterbacks coach David Blau from interviewing for the Jets job. He's staying in Washington. I believe the news came out that we blocked David Blau from interviewing with the Jets when the Jets went ahead and announced, okay, we hired Charles London, so y'all can go ahead and put all that business out there, whatever, we don't care. You don't have to keep it under wraps anymore. And just remember, 4 days ago, David Blau had been requested to interview by the Jets and the Jaguars for quarterback position coaches, and then the Bears also requested to interview him for the passing game coordinator job, right under Ben Johnson, the head coach for the Bears now. Like, Ben Johnson was looking at David Blau like, hey, man, we might want to go ahead and take him as soon as we can. But then they ended up offering the job to somebody else. And I don't even think it was a situation where they didn't give David Blau the job because we blocked the interview. I believe that they just chose the other guy. Like, to be completely honest, to be keeping it thou wow with y'all, man, I'm not about to just hype up the Commanders unnecessarily. I feel like that was a situation where Ben Johnson actually chose the other guy over David Blau. I know David Blau, all of this hype that I've been giving him, and I'm telling y'all, the hype is warranted, trust me. But I'm not going to go that far to say that, you know, Ben Johnson chose another guy because David Blau wasn't available. I believe they just straight up said, you know, we're going to interview David Blau. We see some of the genius going over there, but we're going to move somewhere else. Maybe he's not ready yet. Going from assistant quarterbacks coach to passing game coordinator is a pretty big leap. That's why other teams were trying to offer him a quarterbacks coach position. But again, nope. We swatted all of that up out of there. I mean, they must really love David Blau, man. I mean, when was the last time you've heard of a team not only blocking a coach from interviewing at all, especially in the Commander side of things? When was the last time a burgundy and gold team ever was like, no, you cannot interview this guy right now? But then also blocking interview access to a position as low as quarterback's assistant coach. Not even just quarterback's coach, quarterback assistant. You have offensive coordinator, passing game coordinator, then maybe quarterback's coach, and then the assistant to that quarterback coach. And we're telling other teams, no, you cannot interview that guy that's way down there, because the feeling is he won't be way down there for long. I mean, you can tell that even they know, like Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, and these guys, or at the very least agree or feel like David Blau has like this whole next Sean McVay, next Ben Johnson type of thing written all over him. Whatever it is that he's doing in these team meetings, whatever aura he has. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury at one point even credited him with helping with a lot of the play designs that we used this past season. So, and I'm guessing that, I guess, word got out, and maybe other teams, the Jets, the Texans, and even Ben Johnson leaving the Lions to go to the Bears, maybe caught wind of that and were like, hey, this, whatever, like David Blau is doing something behind the scenes that maybe we want that a part of our team, and maybe we can groom him to be our next offensive coordinator. The Commanders like, nope. This is our next offensive coordinator that we're grooming right now. But now, off rip, first of all, retaining as many coaches as possible is always a great thing, especially after you have the year that we just had, as great as it was. Like, that was amazing. So just off rip, being able to keep everybody intact. I mean, especially when it's an assistant quarterbacks coach, and in Tavita Pritchard, who, you know, he's, I guess, interviewed for some jobs but didn't accept them, but he was our quarterbacks coach, and then your offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury, all being a part of this historically great offense and several advanced metrics, and easily the greatest rookie quarterback season of all time. As many as those people that were involved in that you can keep and retain for at least another year as possible is always a great thing. Continuity, chemistry, all of that important. But even more important than that, specifically like long-term wise, this franchise blocking other teams from even just interviewing David Blau makes it safe to assume what I theorized days ago, that this team looks at David Blau as a strong contender to potentially replace Cliff Kingsbury when he eventually leaves Washington to go potentially be a head coach somewhere else. Maybe as soon as 2026 or maybe later, we'll see. I mean, it's more than likely going to be after this 2025 regular season, 2026 postseason run, and then maybe David Blau is your offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders, for Jayden Daniels specifically, moving into that 2026 regular season. We'll see. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but again, I've been saying this for days now. I've really been saying this for weeks now, but them blocking this interview access to David Blau just shows, I mean, I feel like it's good enough evidence to kind of back up the claims that I've made. I really feel like, because I haven't heard them say they blocked in, you know, any other team from interviewing Cliff Kingsbury, any team from, and that's probably just like, we're not going to do that to you. We don't want to clip your wings. If somebody offers you a head coaching job and you want it, we're not going to do that to you. You know what I'm saying? You've done so much for us. Why would we turn around and do that to you? I'm pretty sure even as part of like like the interview process, Cliff Kingsbury is probably assured to him, like, if we ball out this season and you want to go be a head coach next season, we're not going to stop you. We're not going to block any interviews. I mean, can you not do that for offensive coordinators? That's probably what it is. You probably can't even do that for offensive coordinators trying to become head coaches. But I didn't hear us trying to block any interviews for Tavita Pritchard, who's the quarterbacks coach, with, again, David Blau right under him as the assistant quarterbacks coach. They specifically, the only one I've heard of so far out of any of our coaches that are getting interviews, Anthony Lynn is our running backs coach, Joe Jr. is our defensive coordinator as well, getting head coaching interviews, I believe, with the Jets at first, but then they chose to go with Aaron Glenn. The only in person I've heard them block access to interview-wise is David Blau. I feel like that means something. Also, shouts out to John Com. He said Washington thinks highly of Blau. Was also blocked from talking to the Jags about their quarterback position and job as well, and Chicago about his passing game coordinator job. A source says, so actually, my fault. I'm not giving David Blau enough credit. John Com just confirmed that we did block Ben Johnson and the Bears from even having a chance to interview David Blau for their passing game coordinator position. So maybe Ben Johnson did. I'm just speculating. We're just guessing here. Ben Johnson had David Blau as his favorite candidate to make that leap from assistant quarterbacks coach to passing game coordinator. That's a really big leap. And if Ben Johnson thinks that highly of you as an offensive mind, I'm telling you, David Blau, cherish this guy while we have him. We'll see what happens in the future if he eventually becomes our offensive coordinator, or if he ends up leaving and Sean McVay and us, Kevin O'Connell and us, Matt LaFleur and us. We've seen it over and over again with a lot of coaches leaving this staff from lesser positions to go take big roles elsewhere and then balling out. Hey, if we don't keep David Blau, he could end up being the next one, is all I'm saying. I mean, again, John Com just confirmed that every time somebody tried to interview David Blau this offseason, the Commanders were like, get that up out of here. Stop trying. Stop. We might as well just go ahead and put a do not contact tag on him at this point. I love it. I mean, Blau is definitely spoken highly of around the league from what I've seen from reporters as well. So it's not just the Commanders thing, it's everybody. And the fact that Ben Johnson, going to be a head coach for the first time with the Bears, looked at our assistant quarterbacks coach and was like, I want to interview him for our passing game coordinator. So forget all of that other stuff I said about maybe Ben Johnson, the guy that he hired, was his first choice. We can't confirm that now because he didn't even get the chance to interview David Blau. You never know. And then again, Jets and Jaguars trying to interview him as well, and we were like, nope, you're not doing that either. No interviews for you, man. We plan to keep you here at least through 2025, and then we'll see about, like, because at that point, at the end of this next season, you know, whether we win a Super Bowl or not, it's time to promote that guy to something. There's no way he's going to be an assistant quarterbacks coach again while these other teams are trying their best to give him immense promotions. I feel like that's even insane to stop him from interviewing for passing game coordinator. You know how big of a jump that is from assistant quarterbacks coach to passing game coordinator? You're right there behind an offensive coordinator who's right there behind a head coach as far as job opportunities go. The fact that we shut that down, it sounds like to me, just out of respect, like you have to have some plan in place that they probably vocalized to him that we do plan on grooming you to be the successor to Cliff Kingsbury. He has to be. I mean, it only makes sense. And shouts out to Al Galdi, because he tweeted the Commanders so far in this front office coaching cycle in terms of candidates to go elsewhere. Lance Newmark is staying, Cliff Kingsbury is staying, and David Blau is now staying as well. And all three of those are big time. I know the Jets tried to turn it around. Well, a Jets reporter, not the entire Jets organization. I'm not going to do that to them. But at least a Jets reporter tried to spin it as if like Lance Newmark, it was a terrible hire anyway. And they're lucky that they didn't end up hiring him. I'm telling you right now, Lance Newmark matters. I mean, all of these kickers that we've had to go through, Dan Quinn gave Lance Newmark all of the credit for that. Adam Peters gave Lance Newmark all of the credit for setting up how we evaluate the draft. And I feel like we had a pretty good draft, right? Like the way that they set it up to where they give each player like a certain score based on the position. Like Lance Newmark is the one that instilled that process. And I feel like he deserves a lot of the credit for what we've achieved this year. He's not like the main reason we had so much success, but he was a reason. And I feel like the Jets, I don't know what happened there, because it sounded like Lance Newmark was like inevitably going to end up the GM for them, and then it just didn't happen out of nowhere. I don't know. And I refuse to believe that it had anything to do with Aaron Glenn, because Aaron Glenn and Lance Newmark worked together for Detroit. I don't know. I'm not going to dive into that too much, but one thing that did happen though is that we did lose one coach. Now it was a coach that kind of snuck up under us, and we kind of, I didn't even notice that this guy may end up being lost, but either way, Apparently, the Commanders lost our assistant special teams coach, John Glenn, and he will go be the linebackers coach to the Las Vegas Raiders over there with Pete Carroll and them guys. And honestly, the move makes a lot of sense for him because he was the linebackers coach in Seattle for 6 seasons under Pete Carroll. And then he made like a coaching switch to special teams assistant when he came here. But he's going back to doing what he does best, which is being a linebacker coach, which is probably what he prefers to do anyway. And I know it probably has to kind of suck a little bit to leave an organization that's on the rise like this for that. But who knows, man? The Raiders look like they're trying to do something. I mean, I'm happy that Chip Kelly's over there because that's going to finally unleash my boy Brock Bowers. I don't know what they're going to necessarily do at quarterback, which we're going to talk about soon. But I would love to see my Georgia dog Brock Bowers finally flourish a little bit. He balled out, but it was mostly because of just him being him. It would be nice if he got some offensive coordinator help at least, and then we'll see about the quarterback help and then other weapons outside of him to at least distract defenses from focusing on stopping him. But one step at a time for my boy Brock Bowers. But my point is, though, my main point is we lost the coach and John Glenn. You didn't see the Commanders stop and block any teams from interviewing him, right? I'm telling you, this David Blau situation really has something going on. It's not me just boosting y'all heads and just trying to hype them up beyond reason. You got to read through the tea leaves, man. When there's smoke, there's fire right now. I'm telling you. Again, just pay attention to the guys that love him. Ben Johnson, Dan Quinn, and Adam Peters doing everything they can to keep him, blocking every single interview. The Jets and the Jaguars are like, please come help us with our quarterback situations. And the Commanders are like, no, he will not. So be on the lookout for that. But also, speaking of the Raiders, because now Scott Turner is leaving the Raiders to go become the Jets offensive coordinator. You know, this is like it's like a coaching carousel right now, you know, especially for offensive coaches. It's really hard for them to fall out of favor. Like Eric Bieniemy is a unique situation where he fell from Chiefs top coordinator to all the way to the Commanders. It didn't work out. He went to UCLA. Now he's fired from UCLA. It's a nosedive that honestly deserves applause because that's really unheard of. From winning Super Bowls with the Chiefs and then to where he is now, fired from a college team that isn't even one of like the top college teams. I don't know how it got to that point, but shouts out to that boy Scott Turner, man. That boy keeps the job no matter what. He's doing something somewhere. And another point that I want to bring is that, like, I mean, look at our current offensive staff right now. I mean, you have our offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, teams trying to steal him away and offer him a promotion to head coach. And then you see our assistant quarterbacks coach getting job promotions offers with other teams, and we had the blocking and all of that. You're seeing Tavita Pritchard, our quarterbacks coach, getting interviews everywhere. You saw Brian Johnson get some interviews for offensive coordinator as well, who's our current passing game coordinator. That's why we can't promote David Blau right now, because we have other really good offensive minds in their current jobs where normally if you were to promote David Blau, he would take their jobs, but we want to retain all of these guys if we can. But it seems like, I'm not going to lie, David Blau may be the priority. But my main point is, look at how different our offensive staff is, our offense in general, especially on the coaching side, is this time around where everybody's trying to steal our coaches, whereas just last year and a couple of years ago, we couldn't wait to get rid of our offensive coordinators and our offensive staff and things like that and start all over. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But no, again, shouts out to Scott Turner for getting another job, man. Hey, man, that boy stay in the rotation somewhere. But going back to the Raiders, apparently there are NFL rumors going around that Marcus Mariota is a name to watch for a veteran quarterback option for the Las Vegas Raiders, especially since he excelled in Chip Kelly's offense, and Jayden Daniels talked about how much of an influence that Marcus Mariota was for him. And then even the games he had to sub in, the Carolina Panthers game, he was really good. Oh my Lord, that Cowboys game to end the season, he was so clutch. He was the entire run. We didn't have any run game. Marcus Mariota himself was the run game. Insane stuff. So I'm not surprised that other teams are looking like, hey man, at worst case scenario, bring him in to be a backup quarterback, because he's a high-end backup quarterback. I can admit where I was wrong. Heading into the offseason, heading into the 2024 season, when we got Marcus Mariota, I was like, yeah, that's cool. And I can see the logic behind it because him and Jayden Daniels are both mobile quarterbacks and things like that. I can see it. But I never expected him to have to come in and play regular season games the way that he did, and for him to ball out doing so the way that he did. I knew he could be a great teammate to Jayden Daniels. I mean, you saw that game when Jayden Daniels was dead tired in overtime against the Falcons towards the end right there. Marcus Mariota had to come and motivate him and pretty much get him to go back out there and, hey, finish the job. And Marcus Mariota, hey man, elite signing this offseason. I have to admit where I was wrong. But again, just in case if you missed it, the Las Vegas Raiders are hiring Chip Kelly as their new offensive coordinator after he just went over to Ohio State to win a championship for 1 year. Now he's going right back to the NFL to be the offensive coordinator for the Raiders. Again, I'm excited for my boy Brock Bowers. That's the only thing I like about all of this. So now you have head coach Pete Carroll. That's insane. Chip Kelly is the offensive coordinator. Patrick Graham is the defensive coordinator. And then the special teams coordinator is Tom McMahon. I mean, it's pretty big reunion over there. And then, of course, Marcus Mariota and Chip Kelly, their history together and how Marcus Mariota balled out for Oregon at their time, going to a Heisman Trophy winner and all of that type of stuff. So I'm pretty sure even Marcus Mariota is like, you know what, that would be cool to actually go back with my former head coach that had me playing at the best that I've ever played in my life. Even though you could make an argument that in a couple of those games he had to play for us this past season, you could argue that was him playing his best football, because college is one thing, the NFL is a different one. And even his time with the Falcons and especially the Tennessee Titans that didn't necessarily look that good, you could argue against the Panthers and that game against the Cowboys, that second half, some of the best football Marcus Mariota has put on display at the NFL level. But hey, man, I wouldn't be surprised if he went and followed Chip Kelly over there to the Raiders, even though I hope we re-sign him to a very cheap backup quarterback contract, please. And to go back to David Blau and this whole coaching situation, shouts out to Scott Jennings of Hogs Haven. I feel like he does a good job just breaking down a few things that I do want to mention before we get up out of here. First of all, they say the latest update on the NFL's coaching hiring cycle has moved down to assistant level for the Washington Commanders. There's only one head coaching job open, the Saints, right now, and it seems like nobody really wants it. But there are offensive coordinator jobs available. And David Blau just completed his first year as a coach after being a backup quarterback in the NFL for 5 seasons. Remember, David Blau, this 2024 season that just passed, is his first year ever coaching in any way. He was Washington's assistant quarterbacks coach this season and is considered a fast riser who can move up quickly. He has received interview requests from the Bears passing game coordinator, Jets quarterbacks coach, and don't forget the Jaguars quarterbacks coach as well over there with Trevor Lawrence. Both teams hired coordinators from the Lions, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, respectively, as their head coaches, and Blau was on their practice squad in 2023. So there goes the connection right there. That's how Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson, that's how they're familiar with David Blau, and they know how he gets down right there, at the very least personality and mentality wise. And maybe they were able to pick his brain as a backup quarterback on the practice squad back then, but from what he did with the Commanders, helping Jayden Daniels do what he did, that's probably one of the big reasons they offered him the positions that they offered him. Then also Tavita Pritchard has been the Commanders quarterbacks coach for 2 seasons now, and he was one of only 3 coaches that Dan Quinn carried over from the Ron Rivera regime. I feel like that's already a compliment in itself, and he may not necessarily be to the level of like the next Sean McVay, but Tavita Pritchard is somebody that you want to keep around as long as you can. He worked closely with Jayden Daniels along with Blau in his interview with the Jacksonville Jaguars for their offensive coordinator job. The Jaguars ended up hiring former Buccaneers offensive coordinator Liam Cohen to be their new head coach. If Pritchard gets that job, it's still out in the open right now. He just had his first virtual interview back on Friday. We'll see what happens from there. We have not solidified the fact that Tavita Pritchard is staying yet. We know David Blau and Cliff Kingsbury is staying, but we're not sure about Tavita Pritchard or even Brian Johnson just yet. He would be working with quarterback Trevor Lawrence, and Blau will more than likely move into the quarterback position if he doesn't get a promotion with another team. But again, we're blocking every interview possible, so I'm pretty sure he's going to end up either staying assistant quarterbacks coach here, or if Tavita Pritchard leaves, then we can finally promote David Blau to actual quarterbacks coach. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes from assistant quarterbacks coach to quarterbacks coach this year, then Cliff Kingsbury leaves next year to take a head coaching job, and then he's your offensive coordinator the immediate year after that. The NFL's coaching cycle, along with the postseason, is almost over. There's only one head coaching job left, and 2 teams remain in play for the Lombardi Trophy. The Washington Commanders lost to the Philadelphia Eagles and will watch them play the Kansas City Chiefs in 12 days. The New Orleans Saints are the only team that is still looking for a head coach. The Commanders were in the same position last year before they hired Dan Quinn. I thought that was an interesting point as well. Remember, we were the last team to hire a head coach. It's amazing that we were able to put together such an all-star staff. That's ridiculous stuff. That's the Dan Quinn effect. I said that even when I doubted the hire, and I was like, man, I would prefer like an offensive-minded guy like Ben Johnson or Bobby Slowick. And oh boy, how wrong I was about Bobby Slowick. I can admit that. But the one thing I kept saying though, glass half full, Dan Quinn is going to be able to put together an amazing staff from his experience and his, around his ability to form great relationships and networking around the NFL. He will be able to put together the best collection of coordinators out of any of the new head coaches that happened last hiring cycle. Now moving on, offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury and defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. both received interest from teams, but only Witt actually interviewed with the Jets. That boy Cliff Kingsbury said, "I'm not interviewing." This was Witt's first head coaching interview ever, and he will return as Washington's defensive coordinator next season. So it seems like that's solidified, of course, with the Jets going ahead and accepting Aaron Glenn as their head coach. Kingsbury was expected to get significant interest after his return to the NFL and was helped by having the best quarterback in the 2024 draft. I love to hear that. Kingsbury held off on interviewing while Washington was still in the playoff hunt, but will reportedly not interview with the Saints, and he's good to go. And I mean, just again, I just got to clap it up for Cliff Kingsbury just off of the fact that even if he was thinking about becoming a head coach, unlike Ben Johnson and a lot of these other coaches out there that were willing to interview while their teams were still currently in the playoffs, Cliff Kingsbury was 100% focused on the Washington Commanders. Every waking second that he had available, he was focused on how do I beat our next opponent. Meanwhile, other teams' coaches like Ben Johnson, you could tell he wasn't 100% all in that divisional round against us, which is probably one of the reasons why they lost, because literally immediately after they lose, within 24 to 48 hours, he already has like a lot of his coaching staff already decided. So you knew they hit that leading up to the game against us. He was already making calls about, if I leave the Lions, I want you to be this for me, my offensive coordinator, my defensive coordinator, stuff like that. So shouts out to Cliff Kingsbury for not doing us dirty like that, because I know Lions fans are highly upset at Ben Johnson. I saw the tweets, man. They were like, how you already got a coaching staff already? That means you were not putting your all in beating the Washington Commanders. But hey, man, it is what it is. And then lastly, assistant general manager Lance Newmark also received interest at an executive level. He interviewed for the Las Vegas Raiders job and was considered a finalist for the New York Jets GM position, but he will return to Washington after those positions were filled. And I feel like we should be happy that we got Lance Newmark back. Again, other teams are going to word it as they got the better guy. Other than Lance Newmark, Lance Newmark was not the best option. That's why they chose the other guys. But I'm telling you right now, as Commanders fans, I mean, he may not necessarily be the best GM candidate, but as an assistant GM, he's elite. I'm telling you right now. And then also, before we get up out of here, did want to mention a couple of random NFL updates that probably seem important. First of all, the NFL will reportedly consider measuring first downs electronically during the 2025 season. That's big time, man. I may do a separate video on that if y'all want me to actually break down what's going on there, because that's huge. That's like us moving into the future type of stuff. So stay tuned for that, man. Finally. Maybe that's something they'll test in the preseason, and then we'll see if they actually utilize it in the regular season. Who knows? But hey, man, that's really cool. And then also, in other great news, the 2024 NFL season had the fewest number of concussions since the start of the data tracking in 2015. I'm telling you right now, them Guardian caps, you're going to start to see them a lot more, and they're not going anywhere at all. I mean, yeah, some of y'all don't necessarily like the way it looks. It doesn't bother me, but it's keeping players a little bit more safe. Now, granted, maybe there's a little bit of corruption in there to where they're not reporting concussions as often, because Jalen Hurts definitely had a concussion that first time we played them, and they kept him in the game and acted like he didn't have one. But then again, they've probably been doing that even since before 2015, so maybe the margin of error isn't that big, and I think actually the NFL is slightly safer for head injuries right now, and I believe the Guardian caps are a big reason to that. So we'll see, just to let you know, just to give y'all some of the NFL updates before we get up out of here. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please still find that like button, still find the subscription button, still find the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Please make sure you leave a like on the way out. And if you made it this far in the video, you are the GOAT. I salute you. And as promised, the answer to the trivia question is Andy Farkas. Just to let you know, I would have never have guessed that. I mean, this was a question about 1938 to 1944. I had no chance. I'm pretty sure this is easily the hardest trivia question I've asked so far, and I was complaining about them being too easy just a couple of weeks ago. Boy, they stepped it up big time. They must have heard me. I don't know. They're not playing with us now. But yeah, man, let me know if you already guessed that before I gave you the answer. I salute you for that alone. Let me know that in the comment section. But of course, get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about the whole David Blau situation. Do you feel like I'm exaggerating how much people are excited about him and like him? And let me know how you feel about the whole Marcus Mariota situation, potentially leaving to go join the Raiders. Do you hope he stays as a backup quarterback with us, or are you just like, he can go to the Raiders, you don't really care that much? Let me know how you feel about all of that. And of course, man, I appreciate y'all. Make sure you leave a like on the way out. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.